The research outpost was too quiet at night, the kind of quiet that made Dr. Evan Hale aware of his own heartbeat. Most evenings he stayed in the lab out of habit, pretending the never-ending reports needed his attention. The truth was simpler and more embarrassing. He didn't like going back to his quarters because that was where she was. Alindra Veyer, assigned as his cultural liaison. Tall, elegant, silver-blue skin with faint luminescent patterns that shimmered when she moved. And completely unreadable. She had arrived 3 months ago with a brief salute, a polite bow of her elongated ears, and the statement, "I will ensure your needs are met, Dr. Hale." Which unfortunately she had done with flawless precision ever since. He'd expected someone stern, maybe annoyed to be assigned to a human scientist. Instead, he'd gotten a quiet, graceful presence who drifted through his quarters like moonlight, silent, attentive, and impossible to ignore. Evan finally left the lab when his vision blurred from fatigue. As he stepped into the corridor, his wristcom chimed with a message, "Dinner prepared. Your preference, mild spice blend." He exhaled, part gratitude, part guilt. She always anticipated things he never said out loud. He wished he understood why. When he arrived at his quarters, the lights were soft, warm. Alindra always adjusted them when he worked late, though he'd never mentioned his sensitivity to harsh light. The food was arranged neatly on the table, and she was standing beside it, hands folded, posture formal. "Welcome home, Dr. Hale." "Alindra, please, Evan is fine." She nodded as always. She never used it. He sat down, pushing aside thoughts he shouldn't have. He tried to break the tension. "You didn't have to wait for me. I wish to ensure the temperature was correct." Her voice was soft, melodic, and somehow carried more emotion than her expression ever revealed. Evan ate a few bites before noticing something unusual. Alindra wasn't retreating to the kitchen, as she usually did. She was standing near the far window, gazing at the stars beyond the station's shield. The faint glow across her cheekbones pulsed slowly like quiet breath. "Alindra?" he asked. Her luminous markings shifted, faintly violet. "Yes, Dr. Evan." She corrected herself with effort. She stepped closer, her movements fluid, almost hesitant. "There is a matter I wish to ask about, if it is permitted." "Of course." He straightened, sensing something delicate in the air. Her ears lowered slightly, a sign he'd learned meant uncertainty. "4 nights ago, during the power failure, we shared a meal by candlelight." Her voice softened even more. "We spoke of your family, and I told you about the river gardens of my homeworld." He smiled faintly. "I remember, it was nice." Alindra's gaze flickered downward. "I wish to ask if we may do it again tonight." Evan blinked, his mind stalled. "Do what again?" Her luminous markings brightened, then dimmed in rapid confusion. "The shared meal, the conversation, the companionship." She swallowed, a surprisingly human gesture, but perhaps I misinterpreted. "If it was merely necessity, I apologize for asking." She stepped back as if retreating into herself. "Alindra, wait." Evan stood, nearly knocking over his chair. "I didn't say no. I just didn't realize it meant something important to you." She paused, her glow shifted silver, then faint violet again. "In my culture," she said quietly, "a shared meal without duty is an expression of trust, of interest." "I feared I misunderstood you." Evan's breath caught. "Interest. That night wasn't necessity," he said softly. "I enjoyed talking with you. I didn't know it meant something deeper to you, but..." He stepped closer, meeting her eyes. "I would very much..." The kitchen smelled faintly of starroot and something citrus-like. Alindra's attempt to merge human and Velari flavors. Evan leaned against the doorway, watching her work. She was efficient, but not in the detached way he'd grown used to. Tonight, her movements were lighter, less guarded, as though asking him that question had released something she had been holding tightly inside. He realized with a quiet ache that he had been holding something too. Alindra glanced over her shoulder. "Is the lighting acceptable? I adjusted it to a warmer spectrum. Humans find it comforting." "It's perfect," Evan said honestly. Her ears lifted in a small, pleased gesture that made warmth bloom in his chest. They sat across from each other at the table, a simple meal between them. Grilled starroot, sautéed greens, and a dish that looked vaguely like rice but glowed faintly blue. Alindra watched him take the first bite, her luminous markings pulsing a soft gold. "Well," she asked, tone poised but hopeful, "it's amazing." He meant it. It tasted like a memory he didn't have yet. Alindra relaxed visibly. "I was unsure. Human and Velari ingredients do not always harmonize." "They do tonight." They ate quietly for a moment, but it wasn't the heavy silence of their usual evenings. It was gentle, shared. A silence with room inside it. Evan cleared his throat. Alindra, when you said that sharing a meal means trust, does it mean that for you, personally? She set down her utensil with careful deliberation. Yes. Her voice was soft but steady. I do not extend such invitations lightly. He felt the weight of that, and when you asked if we could do it again, he hesitated. What did you think I'd meant the first time? Her glow dimmed to silver blue. I thought you were offering companionship, perhaps the beginnings of a connection. She looked down. When you did not mention it again, I assumed it had been necessity only. I did not wish to presume interest where there was none. Evan leaned forward. I didn't realize it mattered to you. That's on me, not you. She met his eyes, violet blooming faintly under her skin. In my culture, presuming interest is a grave offense. We wait for clarity, sometimes too long. Evan shook his head. I don't want you to wait anymore. If something matters to you, tell me, even if I'm slow to understand. A small, startled breath left her, almost a laugh. I will try. They finished their meal and Alindra carried the dishes to the sink. Evan followed, unsure why until he saw the faint tremor in her hands. Not fear, emotion. Alindra. She froze, yes. You said meals like this mean trust, interest, connection. He paused, heart beating a little too fast. Does it also mean you want to know me better, not just as your assignment, but as a person? Her luminous patterns brightened with a slow, blooming gold. That is precisely what it means. Evan exhaled, something loosening inside him, something he'd kept knotted for months. Good, because I want to know you better, too. Her eyes widened slightly, the first truly unguarded expression he'd ever seen on her face. Then, she said quietly, may I show you something after we finish? Anything. She finished cleaning with ritual precision, then led him down the corridor toward her quarters. Dee never entered them. He'd always respected her silence, her need for space. But now, standing before the door, he realized he'd mistaken her privacy for distance. The door slid open. Her quarters were nothing like his, nothing like any room he'd ever seen. Soft, glowing flowers hung in crystal vials. Delicate wind ribbons swayed gently, moved by an unseen airflow. A tapestry of starfields covered the wall, handwoven from shimmering threads that caught and fractured the light. And on her desk sat a half-finished piece of art, a drawing of him. Evan stopped breathing. It was him at his workstation, hair messy, eyes focused, brow furrowed the way it always did when he ran simulations. But the expression Alindra had drawn wasn't fatigued or stern. He looked peaceful, seen, as if he were someone worth looking at. You drew this, he asked quietly. Alindra's ears lowered in embarrassment. I began it when I first arrived. I wish to understand you beyond your reports and schedules. I study people through their movements, their silences, their habits. You fascinated me. Fascinated, Evan repeated, stunned. She nodded slowly. You speak little but think deeply. You do not notice many things, but the things you do notice you hold with great care. You are patient and lonely. Her voice faltered. I recognized that loneliness. It is why I wish to share a meal. Why I hoped. Her markings dimmed, hesitant. That perhaps you might see me as I see you. Evan turned to her fully, his own breath unsteady. Alindra, I didn't know I should have, but I didn't. Her eyes softened. That is why I feared I misinterpreted everything. I did not wish to burden you with emotions you did not share. A burden, Evan stepped closer. You're not a burden, you've been the best part of my life here. A faint gold shimmer spread across her skin. Then, she whispered, may I ask one more question? Ask anything. When I asked tonight if we could share another meal, Alindra's quarters stayed with Evan long after he left them. The glow of the wind ribbons, the soft hum of her bioluminescent flowers, the portrait of him she had drawn with such quiet devotion. It was unlike anything he had expected to find behind her door. He had stepped into her private world, and instead of finding distance, he found longing, care, a depth of attention he'd never imagined she possessed. And now he couldn't stop noticing her, not just her presence, but everything about her. The way her luminous patterns shifted when she was focused. The way her ears angled toward him even when she pretended not to listen. The faint, musical resonance in her voice when she said his name. The next morning, he woke earlier than usual. There was no urgent reason, only the quiet hope that he might see Alindra before she retreated into her disciplined routine. But she was already in the kitchen preparing tea. She glanced up, surprise flickering across her features. Evan, you are awake earlier than your usual cycle. I guess I didn't want to miss breakfast. A glow of pale gold shimmered across her skin before she could hide it. I see. She poured tea with practiced precision. Veilith tea was a ritual, 3 motions clockwise, steep for 8 breaths, pour in a thin arc. She taught him that the night before, and he'd watched her hands with an attention he hoped she hadn't noticed. He accepted the cup, and their fingers brushed, barely but enough. Alandra's glow flared and immediately dampened as she composed herself. Alandra, he said gently, you don't have to hide that. Hide, her ears stiffened. The glow, your emotions, I like seeing them. That simple admission froze her. You like it, she asked, voice barely audible. Yes. The gold returned, unguarded this time, blooming up her throat in a slow wave. Then, she said softly, I will try to hide less. It was the most intimate promise she had given him yet. Later that day, Evan stepped into the lab with renewed energy. For the first time in months, his mind wasn't fogged with exhaustion. He worked efficiently, almost cheerfully, until the door chimed softly and Alandra entered with his midday meal. She set the tray down, but instead of leaving, she lingered. Evan, she said quietly, may I speak with you? He looked up immediately. Of course. She folded her hands in front of her. A sign of internal conflict he was beginning to read far better than before. I wish to clarify something about last night. His pulse quickened. Okay. When I asked to share another meal, I meant it in the Veilith sense, an invitation to deepen connection. She paused, searching his face. But I understand humans may not interpret it the same way. I do not want you to feel pressured into an arrangement you do not desire. Alandra, Evan stood. I'm not pressured, I'm interested. Her ears twitched upward. Interested. He stepped closer carefully, stopping within the respectful distance she'd taught him. I want to understand your world, your rituals, what things mean to you. He hesitated. I want to understand you. A soft, trembling breath left her. Then I should tell you the truth, she said. In Veilith custom, when we show someone our private space, the objects we create, the memories we keep, it is considered an early stage of emotional invitation. Evan blinked. So when you showed me your room, she nodded slowly, her glow deepening. It was my way of saying I wished for closeness. His heart thudded hard. And the portrait, he asked softly. Her ears folded back in a rare display of vulnerability. That was personal, intimate. I did not intend to show it until I understood whether you welcomed such attachment. Alandra, he reached out, very gently touching her hand. I did welcome it. She looked at their hands, his warm, human skin against her cool, shimmering fingers, and her breath hitched. I feared I imagined your interest, she whispered. You didn't. The glow across her chest brightened into a blooming gold he'd only glimpsed once before. That evening, she arrived at his door again, without a tray, without her usual formal posture. Instead, she stood with her hands behind her back, shifting ever so slightly as if something inside her was trembling. Evan, she said, I have a request. His pulse jumped. Anything. Would you walk with me tonight? On the outer observation deck. Veilith tradition says that walking in open starlight is a way of learning someone's heart. He smiled softly, then let's go. They walked side by side through the silent corridor until they reached the deck, transparent walls opening to a sea of stars. Alandra stepped forward first, letting the soft blue glow of the nebula wash over her skin. It reminds me of home, she said quietly. Of learning the night patterns with my mother. Each shift in color told a story. Evan watched her, not the stars, not the nebula, her voice softer than usual, her face open in a way he'd never seen before. Alandra, he said gently, can I ask something? Yes. When you said sharing a meal meant connection, what does walking in starlight mean? Her glow brightened. It means. She hesitated, then met his eyes. It means we are beginning something, not yet a bond, but the step before it. Evan exhaled slowly. And do you want that with me? Alandra's ears lifted, trembling with emotion. I would not have asked, she whispered, if I did not already feel it. His chest tightened, warm, full, undeniable. Then I want it too. A breeze from the ventilation system swept through the deck, and the bioluminescent threads embedded in Alandra's hair flickered, like tiny stars awakening. She turned toward him fully. Then Evan Hale, she said, voice low. The days after their starlight walk felt different, softened somehow, as if the outpost itself sensed the shift between them. Evan found himself noticing details he had previously overlooked. The faint melodic hum Alandra made when she concentrated, the graceful precision of her movements, the way her ears tipped subtly toward him whenever he entered a room. And Alandra, she no longer hid her glow. not entirely. Not from him. Some mornings it was a muted silver blue. Other times, when he made her laugh without meaning to, a flicker of warm gold rippled across her collarbones. He pretended not to stare. She pretended not to notice. They were slowly, delicately learning each other. Still, there was a question Evan carried with him, one he hadn't found the courage to ask. They were becoming close, undeniably close, but how close did Alindra believe they were? Did she see him as a friend? Something more, or something her culture had a name for but humans didn't? He didn't want to misunderstand her customs, or her heart. That hesitation lingered in his thoughts as he reviewed scans in the lab until he heard the soft hiss of the door opening. Alindra stepped inside, but something in her posture wasn't right, her shoulders drawn tight, her glow dimmer than usual. She held a datapad in both hands, gripping it too firmly. Alindra, Evan stood. What's wrong? She hesitated. I received communication from the High Council this morning. He felt a strange chill. Is it about your assignment here? In a sense. She stepped closer, placing the datapad on his workstation. They reviewed my quarterly report. They are concerned. About what? Her gaze lifted to his, fragile but resolute. They believe I am becoming overly involved with you. Evan blinked. Overly involved we've only been. Sharing meals, she said softly. Walking in starlight. Entering one another's private spaces. Her glow flickered, embarrassed. In my culture, these are not casual actions. He felt heat rise to his cheeks. And what do they want you to do? Clarify the nature of our relationship. She folded her hands tightly. Or withdraw from the assignment. It hit him harder than he expected. They want you to leave, he whispered. If necessary, she confirmed. If the connection is inappropriate, if it compromises my role. His heartbeat pounded painfully. Do you want to leave? Her reaction was immediate. Her ears snapped upright, her glow flared bright gold, and she stepped forward as if pulled by instinct. No, she said, voice trembling. I do not wish to leave you. Evan exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Then what do you want to tell them? He asked softly. Alindra's glow dimmed again, shifting toward a vulnerable violet. That is why I came to you. I cannot answer without knowing. She swallowed, how you see what we are. The question hung between them, fragile, terrifying, hopeful. Evan moved around the workstation, closing the space between them until he stood a breath away. She didn't retreat, she simply watched him, luminous patterns trembling faintly. Alindra, he said carefully, I don't want to misinterpret Veilith customs, I don't want to assume, but I know how I feel. Her breath hitched. How do you feel? I feel drawn to you, more every day. He held her gaze. I want to know you deeply. I want to keep sharing meals and walks and moments, not because of duty, but because I choose to. Her glow flickered in soft waves, gold, violet, silver, in a way he was beginning to understand meant overwhelmed emotion. Evan, she whispered. In Veilith terms, that is the language of early bonding. He smiled faintly. Then I guess I'm learning to speak Veilith. A quiet, trembling laugh escaped her, more felt than heard. But, he continued gently, I need to know what these rituals mean for you, truly. Alindra's gaze softened, and she lifted one hand slightly, as if debating whether to reach for him. Instead, she drew the air between them with delicate fingertips. Veilith bonding is not a single act, she began. It is a series of steps, invitations, responses. Aligning lives slowly until two paths become one. And walking in starlight. Her glow warmed, that is the first step. And sharing meals. The second, Evan took a slow breath. And the third step. Her luminous markings brightened as though ignited from within. The third, she whispered, is the sharing of truths that frighten us. He felt something deep inside shift. What truth frightens you, Alindra? Silence. Then, that I came here believing humans could not understand connection the way Veilith do, she confessed. But you defy all my certainty, and that terrifies me. Her voice softened to a fragile thread. Because I do not wish to lose what we are becoming. Evan stepped closer until they stood almost touching. You're not going to lose me. Her eyes glistened. Then what should I tell the council? Tell them the truth, he said. Which truth? She whispered. That we're choosing each other, he said softly, even if we're still learning how. Alindra inhaled sharply, an instinctive sound of emotion breaking through her composure. A radiant gold shimmer swept across her skin like dawn rising. Evan, she murmured, may I show you the third step? His heart thudded, yes. She lifted her hand to his chest, fingertips resting lightly over his heartbeat. The following days unfolded with an unfamiliar lightness, as if acknowledging the third step had shifted gravity itself. Alindra moved through the outpost with her usual grace, but now she no longer masked the soft gold pulses in her glow when Evan entered a room. And Evan, he had stopped pretending he didn't watch her. They were careful, slow, deliberate, but the air between them vibrated with something unmistakable. Still, there remained one unresolved thread, the High Council. Alindra had submitted her clarification report, but had not shared their response. Evan sensed the weight of her silence, though she tried to hide it behind ritual and routine. On the fourth evening, after a long day of system diagnostics, he found her on the observation deck. She wasn't standing at attention the way she usually did while monitoring the stars. Instead, she sat on the floor, knees drawn slightly in, her hair ribbons trailing across the ground like strands of faint luminescence. She looked small. He had never seen her look small before. "Alindra," he said gently. She turned her head toward him but didn't rise. "Evan, I apologize. I did not hear you approach." "That's a first," he said softly as he took a slow seat beside her. "Are you okay?" Her luminous patterns dimmed. "The High Council has responded." His pulse tightened, and "They wish to remind me that emotional entanglements with assigned individuals may compromise objectivity." She paused. "They suggest I proceed with caution." He exhaled in partial relief. "So, they're not recalling you." "No," she said, "but they require assurance that any bond forming between us is entered with full understanding, mutual, deliberate, and free of obligation." Evan frowned. "Why does it feel like they're asking if I know what I'm getting into?" Alindra's glow warmed faintly. "Because Veilith bonds are permanent. To us, choosing someone is forever." He took a slow breath. He had known this, but hearing it again, framed so gently, made his chest tighten. "Alindra," he said quietly, "does it worry you that your people question us?" "Yes," she answered without hesitation. "Not because I doubt you, but because I feared their warning might frighten you away." He turned fully toward her. "It doesn't frighten me. We're not rushing into bonding." He hesitated. "But I don't want them thinking I'm unaware of what we're building." Her head tilted slightly. "Then what is your intention, Evan Hale?" He inhaled deeply. "My intention is to keep choosing you." His voice was steady. "Every day, every step, at whatever pace you need." Her glow surged in a soft, blooming gold that spread from her cheeks to her clavicles. "I believe the council will accept that," she whispered. He brushed his thumb gently along her forearm, not quite a touch, but close enough that her glow reacted, subtle and tender. "But you didn't come here to talk about the council," he added softly. "Something else is troubling you." Alindra looked down at her hands, folding and unfolding them in a slow ritual meant to steady breathing. "Today in the marketplace," she said quietly, "two researchers questioned my presence here. They implied." Her glow flickered gray. "They implied you might feel obligated to accept my connection because of my assignment." Evan felt heat rise in his chest, anger protective and sharp. "That's wrong, completely wrong." "I know," she said softly, "but it awakened an old fear that I am too much, too devoted, too willing to care. And that one day you may retreat from me because of it." He shook his head immediately. "Alindra, I'm here because I want to be, not because of your assignment, not because of expectation, because of you." She inhaled shakily. "I wish to believe that fully, but sometimes my certainty trembles." He reached for her hand this time, really reached, and she allowed it, her fingers sliding into his with a soft, electric warmth. "You don't have to be certain every moment," he murmured. "I'm still learning too, but if you tremble, I'll be here. If you doubt, I'll be here if you're afraid." She swallowed. "Will you still be here?" "Yes." He tightened his hold. "Always, if you'll have me." Alindra's breath left her in a soft, fragile sound, half relief, half emotion. She leaned forward slowly, her forehead brushing his. In Veilith culture, he knew exactly what that meant now. Intimacy, trust, declaration. He returned the gesture, pressing gently against her crown crest. Her entire body brightened with a low, shimmering hum, like distant choral notes. They stayed like that for a long, quiet moment. Then Alindra whispered, "There is something else you should know." Evan pulled back slightly. "What is it?" "In Veilith bonding, the fourth step is the sharing of memories." "Memories," he echoed. "Not all, only the ones we choose to give. It is done through touch, safe, controlled, symbolic. It is a way of saying, these parts of me are yours now." His breath tightened. "And the fifth step?" he asked softly. She lowered her eyes, glow deepening. "The fifth is the mutual offering of future intention." Her voice softened further. It is when two acknowledge they are walking toward a bond. Evan's heart hammered, and the sixth. She looked up at him, gold bright, eyes soft. The sixth is the bond itself, lifelong, unbreakable. She paused. I do not offer that lightly. I wouldn't accept it lightly, he said quietly. But the direction we're walking, I'm not afraid of it. Alindra froze, a small, stunned movement before a bright, undeniable gold washed through her entire glow. Then, she whispered, may I show you a memory, just one, a small one, to begin the fourth step. Evan's heartbeat climbed into his throat. You trust me that much? I trust you more than that, she murmured. She lifted her hand and placed 2 fingers at the base of his jaw, feather-light, cool, and trembling. For this to work, she said gently, you must let your mind be still. He nodded, the world softened around them, and then, color, scent, warmth. He saw a garden filled with glowing river plants, swaying in bioluminescent harmony. He felt the faint touch of a warm breeze, carrying notes of crystalline rain. And in the middle of the garden, small, wide-eyed, hopeful, stood a young Alindra, her glow bright and unscarred, humming in time with the river lights. Then the memory dissolved, soft as a breath. Alindra's memory lingered with Evan long after the shimmering colors faded. An echo of childhood warmth, of glowing river plants, of a girl who would someday grow into the poised, controlled woman beside him. He carried it like something precious, something entrusted, and from that moment on, every glance they shared felt heavier with meaning. The fourth step had begun, and neither of them pretended otherwise. 3 days passed before the outpost announced an unexpected development. A diplomatic delegation from Veilith Prime was arriving to inspect the experimental greenhouse dome. Routine, harmless. But Alindra became strangely quiet the moment the message arrived. He noticed it immediately. Alindra, he said as they walked toward the dome, you're worried. I am cautious, she corrected, though her glow dimmed to a pale silver. The delegation includes Senior Envoy Kalen Tyros. He served on the High Council during my assignment approval. And he's coming here? Evan asked. Yes. Alindra folded her hands behind her back, a gesture he now recognized as bracing for impact. He will observe my conduct and ours. Evan slowed his steps. Do you think he'll disapprove? Her glow flickered gray. If he believes our connection compromises my duties, yes. He wanted to say it didn't matter. He wanted to say nothing could change what was happening between them, but she mattered. Her standing mattered, and her culture's ways mattered. So instead, he said, then we'll show him the truth. She looked up. What truth? That we're choosing each other carefully, respectfully, at a pace we both understand. For a breath, something warm flickered through her glow, gold, restrained but heartfelt. Thank you, she whispered. Kalen Tyros arrived with 2 attendants, all dressed in deep indigo ceremonial robes. His presence was calm, polished, intimidating in the way of someone who never needed to raise their voice to command attention. Alindra straightened the moment she saw him, posture perfect, ears aligned in formal greeting. Evan felt her slip into a version of herself he rarely saw anymore, a mask of duty, smooth and emotionless. Liaison Alindra Veilith, Kalen said. Your reports have been thorough. We commend your dedication. Thank you, Envoy Tyros. Kalen turned to Evan. Dr. Hale, we appreciate your cooperation with our observation protocols. Evan nodded, of course. Kalen's gaze moved between them, not unkind but piercingly perceptive. After touring the greenhouse, he asked, May I speak with you both privately? Alindra stiffened. Evan felt her tension like heat radiating from her skin. They followed Kalen into a quiet chamber lined with transparent panels showing drifting starlight. Kalen folded his hands. There is concern, he began, that an emotional bond is forming between you. This is not inherently forbidden, but it must be intentional. In Veilith tradition, bonds are sacred and permanent. Entering one without clarity leads to great harm. Alindra lowered her head. I understand, Envoy. I do not need obedience, Kalen said gently. I need truth. Alindra Veilith, are you forming attachment beyond professional ties? Alindra inhaled. Her glow trembled faintly violet. Yes. Evan felt something in his chest tighten, but not with fear, with pride. Kalen then turned to him. Dr. Hale, do you reciprocate this attachment in full awareness of Veilith cultural implications? Evan answered without hesitation. Yes, I do. Alindra's breath caught, soft, barely audible but unmistakably emotional. Kalen studied them for a long moment. Then I asked the deeper question, he said quietly. Is your intention casual or directional? Evan frowned slightly, directional. Alandra's glow flickered. He means, are we walking toward bonding? Silence pressed gently around them. Evan looked at her, not the envoy, not the galaxy, her luminous eyes, her trembling glow, the fear under her composure, the hope she tried to hide. I don't know how far this path goes yet, he said honestly, but I know I'm walking it with her, and I'm not turning away. A slow, profound gold blossomed across Alandra's skin. Kaelin nodded, satisfied. Then there is no objection. Continue learning each other, but do so with intention and transparency. Bonding is not impulsive. Alandra bowed deeply. Evan mirrored her. Before leaving, Kaelin paused at the doorway. Alandra Veyer, he said softly, your glow reveals what your posture hides. You are more at ease beside him than I have ever seen you. She froze, color blooming across her cheeks. And Doctor, Hail, Kaelin added with a faint smile, your presence steadies her resonance. That is not a small thing. Then he left, the doors closed. Silence remained. Alandra turned toward Evan slowly. You spoke with certainty, she whispered. More than I expected. I meant every word. Her glow deepened, swirling gold and violet. I feared the envoy's inquiry would frighten you, she admitted. Velari bonds are permanent. Humans may find that overwhelming. Maybe. Evan stepped closer, but not with you. She drew a trembling breath. In our traditions, after such acknowledgement, there is a gesture, a symbolic affirmation. What kind of gesture? Alandra lifted her hand. May I touch your pulse? She asked softly. He nodded. She placed 2 fingers gently against the side of his neck. Her glow brightened in a rising wave, synchronizing with the rhythm under her fingertips. This, she whispered, means I hear your truth, I accept it. I walk with it. Evan swallowed. And is there a gesture I should give you? Alandra nodded, eyes shining. Yes, if you wish to echo the meaning, you place your hand here. She guided his hand to the center of her chest, above the meeting point of her luminous patterns. Evan hesitated, not from fear but reverence, then rested his palm there, feeling the warmth of her bioluminescent pulse beneath his skin. Her breath shivered. This, she said, voice trembling, means I offer my truth in return, and I choose you in the direction we walk. He kept his hand where she guided it, heart swelling. Alandra, he murmured, I choose you too. Her glow erupted in brilliant gold, unrestrained, radiant, beautiful. Then she stepped closer, forehead coming